you had bone cancer. And this is why you are known as Dr. Bones, right? We got Dr. Bones Apothecary.
It wasn't going to be one particular medicine, one particular acupuncture treatment or herb. It was going to be a whole rearrangement of my lifestyle.
Nadia Ramos, one of the most gifted, if not the most gifted healer that I know.
5-6 years later from my diagnosis, I have no symptoms, and I was told by multiple doctors, oncologists, hematologists, that this is an incurable disease.
I have heard that myself.
Yeah.
And I want to call bullshit on that word. Incurable. Welcome to the Deja Blu podcast, where we believe that living a life of magic can be the default. Join us each week as we playfully and authentically dive into the mysteries of life and explore what it truly means to be human. From spirituality, wellness, and all things taboo, we don't hold anything back. So without further ado, let's let the magic unfold. So I'd like to share with you mud water. Mud water has become my morning drink in replacement for coffee because it gives me that beautiful boost of energy and focus without the side effects of the jittery, ungrounded, nervous, and the energy that then crashes later. Mud water is also action-packed with our superfood mushrooms, including lion's mane and cordyceps and reishi, as well as other superfoods to support with that beautiful stream of energy and focus. What I also love about mud water is that they pay forward some of their profits into supporting mental health research through psychedelics. And as you know, if you've been a part of the Deja Blu podcast or have tuned in, that psychedelics have been a big support on my journey of self-awareness and evolution. And so I'm so excited that mud water is paying forward to support with one of the greatest pandemics on the planet, which is our mental health. So if you're interested in getting into mud water and learning more, go to the show notes and there is a link, www.mudwater.blue, and you can get $20 off your order with some free goodies. So go check it out. Hello, you beautiful humans, and welcome back to another episode of the Deja Blu podcast. I am so excited every time I get to sit on these golden hands and have a chat with you. Today's episode, we are going to be bringing in a mystery guest, so do not go anywhere. Stick around. It's going to be exciting. In the meantime, though, I'm just going to have a little bit of a solo moment with you before we roll into our guest today. And something that has been a reoccurring theme or a reflection is that people really enjoy the little solo episodes and their personal little drop-ins. And so I thought this would be another opportunity just for my heart to be felt by you, wherever you are, whatever it is that you're doing, whether you are taking your dog for a walk or you're in your bedroom or you're driving to work and you're just popping on the podcast, just having a little pocket bluebee to have a chat with you here and now. Here we are. Something that's alive for me at the moment that I'm really enjoying is having multiple alter egos. And they are like my medicine. And if you don't follow me on Instagram, then you won't know what I'm talking about. If you do, then you probably will. I have two alter egos currently that are like the really strong ones in my life. There is Marge. She is from the Midwest. She's a Southern lady. She's probably around 70 years old and she's got like life wisdom. Like she's like the crone. She's like, hey, hello, beautiful humans. So here's today I got another bit of message for you. She is my older self speaking to my current self about how ridiculous some of the things are that I get myself caught up with. Whether it's this constant need to be producing because it's rooted in some sense of self-worth, and that if I'm not creating or producing, then I'm not enough. That's a dangerous path. That's also a complete bypass of the seasons of being human, of the recognition that there is a constant shamanic cycle of the death, purification, rebirth, integration that we go through as being human. There is the cycles of the seasons. There is the cycles of being human in our emotions. And Marge just likes to have a little bit of a joke at myself. The other character is Becky Bay. And if you're not familiar with Becky Bay is Northern. She's from the UK and she has a massive mouth. P.S. Both of these characters have filters. And so what they do is they give me an opportunity to actually separate from Blue. separate from my identity, separate who I think that I am, or how I'm supposed to show up, or what a woman on social media is supposed to present herself as, or what a spiritual person is supposed to present themselves as. And it allows me to completely melt the identity into something else that's actually still a part of me. There is an old outrageous crone that doesn't give a fuck about what it is that she's saying that lives inside of me. There is also a very outspoken woman named Becky that also lives inside of me that F's and blinds and says all of the things that are super inappropriate that everyone will be like, oh my goodness, did you actually just say that out loud? However, once I have the filter on, A, I get to meet that subconscious part of myself, and B, I no longer have an identity with my own identity. Therefore, I don't have my ego attached to what I'm supposed to say, and therefore diluting or limiting what my message is, and allows me to say the things that I don't have the audacity to say as Blue. These characters are so good for the health of my psyche. There was a moment I woke up this morning and I was just kind of annoyed that social media seems to actually be like one of the biggest dating apps that there is. And I mean this in the sense of, you know, people be sliding into your DMs, or you be sliding into other people's DMs and hoping that they're going to notice you. And how are you going to get the attention of somebody else is that you potentially may be sharing like really high edited photos of you, or like all these filters that happen that change the shape of our nose and change how we look and add eyelashes and all of the things that create this mirage of actually real life. It's like almost like an illusionary state. And feeling like unless you play into the game, you're not going to get noticed. And if you don't get noticed, then maybe you'll also be single forever. Could be one of the stories, right? And I just started noticing that I was kind of like annoyed when I would go on social media of just everybody's like highly edited, picture perfect lives. And I was like, that is not real. That's not real. Actually, our life is constructed of many kind of mundane things. And there are times when I'm about to be on my bleed or my moon cycle and I feel really bloated and my belly sits, like literally rests on my lap. Or like yesterday I was like eating a whole tube of raw cookie dough. Vegan, by the way, so don't worry about that salmonella. And it like a crumb of it, or like a good chunk actually, had fallen into my belly button unbeknown to me. I got up, I'm walking like with my belly out, butt ass naked to my bathroom, and I feel something in my belly button, and I look down and there's a ball of chocolate chip cookie dough made it into my belly button, and without even a single thought, I just ate it. And I caught myself in that moment of being like, bitch, did you just eat raw cookie dough out of your own belly button? And I was like, yeah, I did. And it's actually those kind of moments that I find to be extremely endearing about people. I love it when somebody's got like crooked teeth and like there's character in them. For me, that's like individuality. It's uniqueness. I love it when there's an imperfection, quote unquote. I find there's a perfection in the imperfections, but I love to feel people's quirkiness. I love to feel people's process. I love to actually witness people in their grief if I get the blessing to be able to do so and the honor of being able to do so, because there's something so beautifully endearing about it. And I remember Mia Magic once said to me when I was going through some gnarly heartbreak, and we were in Greece, and I was like crying so deeply. And after that night, she held me and she held me for like hours, and she was like with me in some of like really what we call a grief portal. And the next day she said to me, she goes, that is the most beautiful I've ever seen you. Like, I've never seen you more beautiful in your life than just like witnessing you completely dissolve. And I feel that. I think that to be able to be human, and we break the word human down as HUE, man, like all the hues, all the colors, all of the expression of being human, and being witnessed in those emotions is actually stunning. And social media is this mirage reality where we're actually only seeing these highly edited, illusionary, filtered lives of other people. And then when we're in a grief portal, when we're feeling like shit, when we feel undesirable, when we're about to come on our moon and we're bloated, or we've got pimples all over our face, or whatever it is the thing, to actually be able to witness somebody else in their challenge allows us to breathe life that it's okay and this too will pass. And so today, Marge had something to say about it, and she chimed in and she was like, hey, I want to see your muffin top. I want to hear about your 2 days of grief where you haven't got out of bed yet. Hell, I want to see your human. And she came through as a part of me that was feeling it, but didn't say it. And then Marge jumped on, and once the filter was on her, she could just say it directly to it. And it's like this crone version of me that is bringing this message deeper into it, into the experience and giving it a breath. Becky Bay popped off not long ago about spiritual sharks, like that there are sharks in the spiritual community. And what I mean by that is like, they eat off of people's trauma and they profit off of people's trauma. And so they come in and make this whole alluring thing, and then you have to pay this really high price ticket to get into this experience and then use your trauma for profit disguised as a spiritual leader. I've seen this happen so many times. I've seen the fucking lingo and the divine feminine, the divine masculine. I've seen the hierarchy system and the spiritual elitism. I feel it in my body and it makes my entire system cringe and contract. And Becky Bay is not afraid to talk about it and just say it out loud, where Blue still is like, oh, I don't want to upset people. I don't want to come across as too judgmental, you know. There's still that identity construct and that ego tug and push and pull experience where what is right, what is wrong, like still navigating the human nature of being the first generation that we've experienced to be on social media and to have Instagram stories and to share on our platform, while also being in the delicate dance of if you speak too much into certain things, you become too opinionated, you will get shadow banned. And if people rely on their income coming from social media, then they become very like sanitized or like diluted in their message because their income comes from this platform. And if they talk about what their vaccine preference is, or if they believe in the vaccine or not, or if what their relationship to the mask mandate is, or what their relationship to certain controversial topics are, we may get shadow banned. So it's such an interesting, delicate dance. And then when having these alter egos that have the opportunity to just be a completely different character and then just go and share these things. And so ultimately, it's just a 50 shades of blue. It's really just the different degrees of characters. And I'm curious if you have any alter egos. Do you have a character inside of you that is really just another aspect or fractal of your expression? So for example, if you were to look at a diamond, it's the same diamond, but it has many different faces, many different ways of looking at it. And the Gene Keys breaks this down because there are 64 archetypes. There are 64 faces of the human experience. Now, we're all 64 of them. But sometimes when we get identified with one way of being, I am a mother and I am a businesswoman and this is my name and this is my religion and this is my social background and this is my appearance and this is how I want to be presented to the world, we become rigid in the flow of that which is needed and don't give ourselves access to all 64 faces of the same aspect of who you are. So I'm curious, is there any other aspects of you that want to be expressed? Is there part of you that's pissed and annoyed by certain things that you see in the spiritual community? Is there parts of you that is annoyed by the filters that happen and how that is infiltrating into our consciousness of worthiness, of the way that we perceive ourselves in a reality of comparison to something that's actually rooted in illusion? Because those pieces of ourselves still need to breathe. And then there is something extremely spiritual and sacred about your rage, about your grief, about your feelings of injustice, about your frustration, about your judgment. Now, when it's pointed and it's blamed at somebody else, and that's when we have a little bit of a problematic experience because it becomes a projection field, which is also what Instagram is. Instagram is a projection field. If you are putting yourself out there, you are putting yourself out there to be judged. And I have received a fair amount of that. And I've talked about this in the previous solo episode about the what it comes with having a voice, or like being opinionated or sharing your perspective on things. And so it's definitely a jungle. And this is just something that has been ripe on my heart, is to share these pieces from a place of allowing these alter egos to breathe and lacing it with humor. Because I cannot take being yelled at by another fucking life coach online. Do not yell at me through your Instagram reels of why I'm not doing enough. I am done with your life coaching. Hell, we got enough life coaches out there yelling at us as to why we should be fucking spending more time in the ice plunge. I'm done with it. P.S. I love cold plunging. So there's a dance. And I just want to continue to let our human breathe. And I also got caught up with it too, where I was spending I was making sure that I presented myself beautifully and always had lovely outfits for the podcast. And I do love that, right? It's an aspect of beauty for me, is dressing myself nicely. Is as an artist, I see my body as a blank canvas, and I like to adorn myself. I like how I feel when I adorn myself in nice things. And also in the same breath, it's not where worth comes from. And so there was a time where I was starting to feel myself unlovable or unworthy because I didn't look like X, Y, and Z, because I didn't look like that one chick on Instagram that's really fucking hot, and all of the dudes in the community are really crushing on her because she posts photos of herself in a bikini 24/7. Nothing wrong with it. It's nothing about her. She gets the freedom to do whatever it is that she wants to do. It's the conversation I'm having with myself in relation to what I'm experiencing from her that's putting myself down that I want to understand and digest. And I want to actually start calling myself forward. And the best way for me personally to call myself forward in these things is to actually bring humor into it and make it stupid. How stupid is this that I'm doing this? For example, there was an Instagram reel that I made the other day where I was eating a croissant. Literally, this is what happened. I went to the cafe, I got myself my lunch, and then I was right when she was like, "Are you done with your order?" I looked over at the, that pastry thing bar right by the checkout, the one that really get you. It's that thirst trap right by the checkout. And I looked over, and this gluten bomb in the name of an almond croissant. P.S. I'm gluten intolerant as well. So by the way, I'm fucking myself over in multiple ways when I'm eating one of these things, even though I love an almond croissant. And it's looking at me and it's like, eat me, take me home, ah! And I was like, yeah, I'll take an almond croissant as well. Yeah, thank you. Take the almond croissant. No shame. Happy days. Got it. Bring it home. There I am, sitting, just munching on the almond croissant, mindlessly scrolling on my homepage on Instagram. Now, I've been really refining my homepage, by the way. Fun fact, did you know that you can actually refine the algorithm search on your homepage on Instagram? You can actually kind of discern what it is that you want to see on there. So, for example, anything that I didn't want to see, you can just press not interested, and it starts to shift the algorithm. And then the things that you do for example, for me, it's fairy tale castles with lots of flowers and really cool AI architecture that actually doesn't exist but does exist in my dreams kind of thing. I love seeing that stuff. It brings out the fantasy in me. It brings out the excitement of a magical world that I kind of remember but is not here. And so I love those things. So you go and those things, and then you say you're uninterested in other things. It starts filtering out your home feed. Anyways, it's on my home feed, and in comes some hot guys. Not sure how the algorithms found me on that one. And I press on it. It's a total thirst trap, by the way. I press on it, and I'm I'm deep in my almond croissant. I'm real deep in it. It's in my mouth, and I'm watching these two hot guys. And then I have this moment where I stop chewing, and I'm like, girl, you best put that almond croissant down if you want to attract a man like this. And then in that moment, I was like, wait, what the fuck is that? What is that voice? That is ridiculous. And I found it to be comical. So in that moment, I just decided to put the video as the background, and I filmed myself in the foreground of it. How you can do where you have the video playing and then you film yourself and you're in the corner. And I just basically reenacted, kind of exaggerated a little bit because I spat it out. Didn't spit it out actually, but in the video I spat the almond croissant out and made this reel about it, because for me bringing humor and comedy takes the shame off of it, takes the lightheartedness off of it, and I think that it's actually a ridiculous thing that has imprinted into my psyche and consciousness that says if you eat that croissant, you can't get the hot guy. Wait, what? That is it's rooted in shame. It's rooted in unworthiness. It's rooted in this body image thing that women navigate, men too, but like really deeply rooted in the female sex, and it's just deeply rooted in our psyche. And so what would it look like to actually bring awareness to it through utilizing the gift of humor? And then next time I catch myself, I can actually be like, that's hilarious and that's really cute, and then demolish the rest of my almond croissant. So this is what I like to do, is like bring humor into topics that are actually like messing with our psyche and feeding this sense of unworthiness. And so I've just been kind of like really magnetized and attracted to people that share their human. There's like a couple of Instagram accounts that I really like, which is one sister specifically, I don't remember her name, but she has like she posts these photos, and she's got like one photo where she's like got her yoga pants on and she's got her leg out and she looks really slim and she's like great lighting, and she's like, and then the one next to it is her with like her yoga pants down and her belly hanging out and her stretch marks, and same position, literally within we're not the same position, but within 2 minutes of each other. So same timing, same outfit, just different positioning, different lighting, and the way that, you know, when you're in yoga pants, you pull them up really high and then it kind of like sucks it all in. Or if you just pull it down, like there comes the muffin, you know, again, I have it, and it just hangs over the top, right? I loved seeing that. Like I felt good seeing that because she looked beautiful in the other image. Like we are constantly evolving and molding and changing, and the lighting and the shifting, and one day we feel like we drank a lot of water the day before, and so we feel stretched out and tight and like nourished and hydrated, and the next day skin looks off and like feels a little bit darker and like more like textured. We are constantly evolving, and the only thing constant is the change of our body in an ever expanding and extracting reality, or expanding and contracting reality. But yet we identify and attach to this imaginary and illusionary sense of perfection, and then tell ourselves that unless I look like that, I will not get a partner. Unless I look like that, I won't get attention from the opposite sex or the same sex, or whoever it is that your sexual preference is towards. And this to me is like really, it like hurts me. It hurts my heart. I hurt for the future generations. I hurt for my future children. And so I want to call myself forward. I want to use humor to not shame myself, because the worst thing about recognizing myself in a pattern is just adding shame onto top of it. And I want to allow myself to be witnessed in my human, my messy, and everything in between, and to create a safe space for our human, HUE, men, to be able to breathe and to recognize that there is so much beauty in our challenge. There is so much divinity in our grief and our shame and our unworthiness. And these parts of ourselves actually have permission to be here just as much as the joy and the celebration and the play and the connectivity and the unity and all of that good stuff. So I'm going to continue to call myself forward. And of course, I haven't got it all figured out. I'm so guilty of all of this stuff. I have social media. I've been posting for over a decade. Like I have got caught in the traps. I've been using filters. I have done all of this stuff. So I stand with you as a student, as an equal, as somebody that is in the inquiry of how can we utilize this platform that has presented itself as it is here right now in a way that can inspire other people and not make them feel a little bit more shitty about their lives. So I'm curious around that, what that looks like. I don't have all of the answers. I don't have any of the answers. It's just more so speaking into something that I think that affects all of us if we are navigating the internet in the world of social media, and how can we access their alter egos within ourselves and give them the gift of their process, and give them the gift and the privilege of being able to share what it is that they see and what it is that they feel, and recognize it's actually just a part of you that hasn't been given the gift or the privilege of being able to be witnessed. And sometimes it gets like crammed back down and then turns into judgment, and then we judge other people, which is actually feeding more division. So how can we let those parts of ourselves breathe without having to create more separation? So I'm in the inquiry around that with you. Anyways, that was my little solo riff. And we're now going to roll into the next part of today's episode, where I am going to bring on a really magical human. She is my housemate. We live together. We've lived together in the past 2 houses now, this one and the one before. And I just wanted to bring her on as a chat. and be able to just have a little moment. This is her garage and she's not been on the podcast yet. And I just want her to be able to experience a little bit about what happens at the podcast and to weave her in, and also to acknowledge what it is that she does in the world and the power and the magnet of what it is that can move through her. And so I will share that introduction when she says, so she can receive it and feel it. But I'm excited for this next part. So stick around, and thank you for being with me on my little solo riffs about how I perceive reality and being in it with me as like your little pocket friend that you tune into on the Deja Blu podcast. Alrighty, like a magic trick. I just go like that, and then we have this magical human sitting on the golden hands as we roll into the second part of today's podcast. Let me do a formal introduction. Not only is this queen somebody that I have had the blessing of being able to live with in the previous house at the Queendom. Now we are in the nest. Yes, we like to name our houses, so we have a little bit of an energetic context of the container in which we live in. I have had the privilege and the blessing of being able to witness her in the mundane moments, whether it is out walking the dogs, or it's just coming back from yoga, or it's washing the dishes, or the sweet little in-between chats and conversations. But not only that, the blessing of being able to live with her, I also have been able to have the blessing, the privilege, and the utmost gift of receiving this magical woman's healing energy. She is deep in the extensive wisdom and knowledge of Chinese herbal medicine. She is an acupuncturist, Chinese herbal medicine doctor, as well as a medicine woman in general. She has the ability to transport me into completely different realms while she is working her magic on my body. I got needles coming out of every direction, like they are sticking out of my head and my crown. There was one moment where we were flying on an airplane and she did like this full acupuncture situation while we were flying through the air on my head because I had a headache. And I just remember feeling like I am so blessed to live with this woman, to receive her medicine, to be able to get acupuncture while I'm flying and hurling through flying and hurling through the air in a massive airplane. And I get to, whenever I'm going through something, like I get to just go and be with her and lay on her healing mat. And so this woman is so valuable to have in my life, and I am so honored and blessed to have you on the podcast today and just be able to like share this moment together. So we have Nadia Ramo in the house, everybody. And the crowd goes wild. Hi, baby girl. Welcome to the Deja Blu podcast.
Hi.
So just a little bit of context. About an hour ago, I walked into the kitchen. She was making something really delicious smelling on the stove. And I was like, hey, because I call her bad bitch because she is the baddest bitch I know. And that's a whole different story. And usually the way that I like get her attention is by slapping her on the ass, because that's just like how we kind of communicate around here.
Yeah.
And she's like whipping something up on the stove. I slap her on the ass and I'm like, hey, bad bitch, you want to come on the podcast? And you turn to me and you're like, yeah, can you give me like a moment to get ready? I'm like, yeah, for sure. So that literally happened an hour ago. So she like whipped up something real nice and she's come join us on the podcast. Nadia, I love you. Thanks for being here.
Oh, it's an honor. I've been staring at this set every day. Yeah. So it's about time I get on here.
Yeah. It's time. We've been talking about it. And I talked about this on a previous episode that I did a psychic reading with a woman named, actually, I'm not going to tell her name. I keep doing this. I'm not going to tell you her name because otherwise y'all gonna like flood her and then we're not gonna have access to her. But she's like the best psychic I've ever experienced. And she was like, you live with, she goes, there's a friend of yours, she has short, dark, curlier hair. She has a dog and you see her on a regular basis. I was like, Nadia. She goes, yes, that's her. She goes, keep her around. She's powerful and you two together have got some work to do.
Ooh, that hits.
So we're here now, appropriate to have her on the podcast. Also, Nadia has a apothecary that is multiple shelves, massive. She made it herself with her friend, also known as the pirate, for obvious reasons, because he is legit a pirate, and made this shelving by hand. And not only that, but she has hundreds of different herbal medicines that have so many different properties, and she's educated in every single one. What every single one does, how it works with the body, when it's used, how much, dosage, all of the things. The amount of knowledge that is crammed into that noggin of yours blows my mind on a daily basis. Nadia, would you share us a little bit? How did you get into Chinese herbal medicine? And I guess that will be the first question, and then we can roll into the next part.
Well, from a young age, I got exposed to Chinese tea ceremony. I was about 15 years old, just a little surf kid, getting in all sorts of trouble and really angsty. And the first time I sat at a table and they were pouring the tea really slowly, it was quiet. There was a flute playing in the background. And I just had this moment of stillness that I feel like I experienced for the first time in my consciousness. And it really put me into this state of just captivation. And I started following the thread of Taoism and Chinese culture through the art of tea ceremony. And that was kind of the initial spark. And when I was in college, I knew I wanted to go to grad school. I felt like I still wanted to pursue academics, and I didn't know what that looked like. And the revelation hit me over a cup of tea that I should study Chinese medicine. And I really didn't know much about it, but it was just a deep curiosity.
It reminds me of Richard Rudd, because if you didn't know this, I'm sure everybody that listens to the podcast now has got to know Richard Rudd by now. He's the founder and the creator of the Gene Keys, and he is obsessed with the tea. Like, that man is like all about his tea ceremonies. He travels with his tea kit, and he introduced me to tea in a way that I had no idea. Like you said, the calm that comes over you, the herbal, the properties of these herbal teas, and what it does on a subtle and yet very powerful level.
Yeah,
actually mind blowing. And it's literally like ingesting Mother Nature. Like, it's like actually being able to breathe in the soil of the earth that these teas have been fermenting and sitting there and cultivating for many years, and then breaking it down with the hot water, and then the ceremony around the tea and the ritual that it comes back to, and then how the tea ceremony actually invites us into a really deep sense of presence and stillness.
Exactly.
Like, constantly going and the hustle bustle and like nonstop, to actually come and pause and have a moment of connection. And witnessing how you bring that into spaces like parties or gatherings where there's so much going on, and it's like constant, like, oh, and this person and that person and loud music and all the things. And as soon as you walk in and you got like that bag on your shoulder, and I know you bring in your t-shirt, I'm like, the vibe has arrived, okay? And you sit there with some glasses that just sit like on the end of your nose, and you've got some like swaggy, cool bad bitch outfit on, and you pour tea, and it's a ceremony, it's an experience. And in addition to the tea, this is an interesting like way of getting in. You had bone cancer. And this is why you are known as Dr. Bones, right? We've got Dr. Bones Apothecary.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit about your journey of healing yourself? Because I think that every single medicine man or woman has to go through learning how to heal ourselves first.
Yeah.
Or to a degree, right? I don't think we'll ever be fully healed. But there is like some kind of feat that we have to move through or navigate ourselves through by being the medicine woman and the medicine man, or the shaman, or the healer of our own experience, before we can start doing it with others. And something that I've noticed within what you've shared with me is that you've been able to heal through bone cancer.
Yeah.
Would you be open to sharing a little bit more about that?
Yeah. It was a diagnosis I was given the moment I graduated Chinese medicine school. And I was having subtle symptoms throughout the course of school, and I thought it was just related to the stress of studying. And when I finally got out of school, I decided to just do what it took to figure out what was going on, because there was a slew of symptoms that I was dealing with. And when I got the diagnosis, it was really bizarre because it's incredibly rare. It's normally a diagnosis that people over the age of 70 get. So if you were to do research on it, there's not a lot of diehard research on trying to prevent or heal this, because it's just something that comes on in eldership. And it was just a big gray area, and doctors just told me within 5 years I would probably need a bone marrow transplant, and they wanted me to go onto a low-grade chemo for the time being. And I decided, instead of taking the low-grade chemo, to go into my own realm of healing with Chinese medicine and plant medicine and ceremonies and working with shamans and figure out what was the emotional root to this. Something felt very ancestral from a Chinese medical perspective. Our bones is very much related to our kidneys, which is very much the energy that we are born into in this lifetime, inherited through our family line. And through a lot of indigenous cultures, the relationship to our bones is our relationship to our ancestry. So for me to be diagnosed with something with the bones made me feel called to pay attention to my ancestry. And I knew that this was going to be a mission to do a bunch of work for my ancestral line. And being first generation American, with my parents coming from the Middle East and being born in a place like California where you have so much access to medicine, it felt like it was all destiny, that I was meant to be born into this society and into this culture to access a lot of realms of healing. And basically, I was shown through, can I talk about ayahuasca?
Of course.
Okay. I was shown through ayahuasca very clearly that it wasn't going to be one particular medicine, one particular acupuncture treatment or herb. It was going to be a whole rearrangement of my lifestyle. It was going to be a prayer, a ritual, an altar, and a daily practice. And eventually the symptoms started to significantly subside. My energy got a lot better and my blood labs started to significantly change. And 5-6 years later from my diagnosis, I have no symptoms. My blood labs are completely normal. And I was told by multiple doctors, oncologists, hematologists, that this is an incurable disease.
I love stories that are delivered of going, this is incurable. I have heard that myself.
Yeah.
And I want to call bullshit on that word. Incurable.
Right.
It is so limited. It is so like it's just flat. It feels like there's no wiggle room for miracles. There's no wiggle room for something outside of what their map of consciousness is. Now, I have so much respect and appreciation for certain aspects of Western medicine, right?
Absolutely.
Like you've got a broken bone or you're bleeding out, like you need to go, and like Western medicine is probably going to save your life. Like there is so much beauty in that. And in the same breath, I don't find a lot of space for miracles in Western medicine.
Yeah.
Miracles being that it can't be defined by science. And yet, so we are partnering or learning to create the bridge between spirituality and science. And that's something that you do extremely well with what it is that you bring to your sessions, because you're not just like putting me on the healing mat and going, all right, Hail Mary, let's see what comes through, and waving your arms around and calling it Reiki. Like, yes, I have a deep respect and appreciation for Reiki. I really believe in it. And I also work with it myself. And there is something extremely powerful about partnering over a decade of study, like deep in the books. The amount of books that I have seen even on your shelf, they're just like a fraction of what you've touched. And the ones that you're donating and constantly moving through books, and the amount of education that you've exposed yourself to, the amount of study that you have invested years of your life into, to then fill that and partner it with your relationship with the metaphysical and the quantum realms. That's the piece that I find to be very unique within your offering. And something that also Zach Bush exhibits is that he went so deep in Western medicine. He was the doctor of Western medicine, and he was realizing that he wasn't curing or healing his patients because he wasn't partnering the somatic with the mental, spiritual, and emotional.
Right.
So what you're doing, and what I've experienced, is that not only have you bridged education, study with the miraculous and the spiritual to be able to heal yourself from cancer, like bone cancer, and to actually ask deeper questions of, okay, well, bones are related to my ancestry. What would it look like for me to actually become curious enough to be a student and go into that realm? And then also, in addition to that, then start healing yourself, create a new relationship with the miraculous, and then hold that space for your clients, for the people that come into your space. And just from a personal experience, like I remember when I was like really in it, and I was really, I've never in my life experienced depression until this time, when I didn't know if I was actually depressed, because I had lost my joy and I'd lost my play and I'd lost my zest for life and my enthusiasm or desire to create anything. And I was isolated in a house on my own at the time, big house on my own at the time. And I called you and you came over and we did a session, and and by the end of that session, I remember I came off the healing mat. I sat up because I'd been face down, and I sat up, and you just started crying. And I asked like why you were crying, and you said because you said something along the lines of, I've never seen a transformation as vast as from the beginning of the session to now, and how you look and what it felt like you were doing, which was, I'll never forget this moment. I was face down, and I felt like I was drowning in stories. I felt like I was suffocating in the amount of stories I was telling myself around how I'd fucked up, or how I'd done something wrong, or how there was something wrong with me. And these were all just stories, and they felt like they had like wedged in my back. And what you did, like, I can hear it, but I can't see it. But it sounds like you're like lighting flame and putting in a cup, and then like pop, 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 pop,
Yeah.
on my back, right? I've had cupping before, but I've never had someone like cup attack. It was like, and I felt like every time you put the cup on me, you pulled a story out of my back.
Yeah.
So there was like the study, but then there was also like the spiritual side of it. Of like, if stories aren't processed, they stagnate in the body, sit on a somatic level, and create pain. And so I would love to understand a little bit from your perspective, like how you listen to the body while partnering it with the knowledge and not getting too lost in the intellect.
Yeah.
And allowing the intellect and the spiritual to sit by side, because you do it in a very effortless way that I haven't come across before in a healer.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a practice, and it took a long time to learn and study the body from an anatomical Western perspective, as well as the energetic system from the Chinese medical perspective, and then merging those two realms and worlds together, and then being able to utilize my intuition in that space and creating a balance between all three of the structural system, the energetic emotional system, and then my own intuition. And so I feel like in the last year, it's been really embodied on all of those levels. So I think in your session, you're feeling the embodiment of all of that. And I think most of my clients do. And ultimately, you know, the Chinese medical map of the body has the meridian systems, and each meridian line is related to a particular emotion. And when I am targeting a particular meridian or a particular point, it usually has a historical context around what emotionally or spiritually, energetically, or even physically can be going on. And so going into a space and holding on. So, you know, the upper back is known as the wind gate, and this is where other energies really infiltrate into us. And so this is our exposure from the external world to our internal system. And so the upper back, when we're being just constantly bombarded with stories, other people's energies, pathogens, even like a respiratory virus, oftentimes, like, you know, when you get a shrill down your neck, they call that it's wind getting into the wind gate. So ultimately, I love working with the back first to sort of just clear out the wind gate and to clear out any infiltration that doesn't belong to anybody's system. And so flash cupping, which was what I was doing to you, is just sticking the cup on and then pulling it out. And, you know, creating the intentionality around it too. I'm like yanking things out of the body and doing that on, you know, the more shamanic realms. And also physically, I'm also sucking, you know, your blood up to the surface and pulling and creating this sort of quick motion that's just quickly shifting the cellular matrix of your skin dermal layer, which whenever we're affecting the fascia on any level, fascia is the interconnected web of our entire body. So if I'm manipulating your fascia in one area, it's transducting through your whole body, and it creates a whole systemic reaction. So that's on a biomedical level, what I'm creating with manipulating points. Do that, massage, like acupuncture does that, acupressure does that, massage, cupping, all of it's manipulating the fascia, but it all is going to transduct through the whole entire system and body. And our emotions do get stuck and held in certain parts of our body. I believe the fascia system is the place. It's a crystalline structure, and our emotions just kind of get stuck in the crystalline structure, and then they're just sort of harbored in. And so then when we like clear it, it's clearing from the whole fascial system, and then our meridian lines open up, our chi, our energy is moving, more fluid in our body, our physiological functions are much more effective, our immune system is boosted. So we get this whole just slew of reactions to touch. And the more intentional that you are about it, or I am about it towards my client, and the more that we're targeting a psychosomatic emotional, the more effective it is, because then your consciousness is going in. You knew you were clearing the stories. So then your consciousness and my consciousness are coming and just getting it from both ends, basically, and able to do the work together.
And that's what it feels like when I'm with you in the session, is that I weave in the shamanic space and in the healing space in my own unique way, in my own unique medicine. I definitely have not had the study around any of your expertise. You bring a whole different wave of energy, which I'm so grateful for, because it creates a very strong sense of wholeness between the two of us. However, from the inside, I can start working on myself, or like hold the breath in, Kegel up, pull the energy up, bring my eyes into my third eye, put my tongue to the roof of my mouth and pull the energy up right when you're pressing right on my right foot and then putting a needle in. And I can work with you. There's like me from the inside and you from the outside. And it's almost like sandwiching the fascia and the cells and everything that is the quantum. Oh, sorry, not the quantum. Everything that is the body. You and I partnering it together. And so that's why, like, it's so rare for me to find somebody that I can, through telepathy, do healing work with and do that energy work with. And so there's so much power in that. And then I feel like I'm like, oh my God, and I get to live with you. Are you kidding me? Like, you're literally upstairs. P.S. This woman is the busiest woman I've ever met. She is constantly working on people. Like, I hardly see her. Like, we're roomies, but I don't see her anywhere near as much as I'd like to, because you're always working, because there's an infinite amount of people that just want you to work with them. And what I always say is that divinity doesn't advertise, right? When something is so good and it has so much value, all you have to do is go all in on one person. And that one person will go, hey, Bernadette.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I just did the most amazing session with this person.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, Bernadette's ears prick up and go, I want to do a session with this person. Are you kidding me? And all of a sudden, exactly. Now that's actually going to happen at the end of this, right? Bernadette's like, hey, can I give you my number?
Within 1 month of being in LA, I was pretty much booked out for months at a time.
Because money and opportunities follow value.
Yeah.
And value is not created overnight. You have not just committed, you have devoted yourself to this work, to healing. And also you have a deeply and compassionate and caring spirit, where if somebody can't afford your rates, you'll do it anyway.
Yeah.
And there's something just so beautiful about your spirit. And I think that that's what amplifies your healing gifts, is that you actually give a shit. You actually really care about the person on your healing mat, on your table. Like I feel you fall in love with whoever it is that you're working with in a degree of like only seeing their potential, only seeing their beauty. And that's the energy that you bring when you're doing the healing. And also you have an extensive amount of knowledge of just like, oh, my back's hurting on this side. And you're like, oh, this is the da-da-da-da-da, and this is connected to this thing. And actually this would be a great medicine. And then you go to your apothecary and you make like a tea or a herbal blend of some sort. And then you're like, you want to take this and do this and da-da-da-da. I'm like, what the heck?
I don't even know how I do it sometimes.
Well, that's when I think that like spirit's moving through you.
Yeah, it's a flow state. I definitely will say it's a flow state. And it doesn't, as much as I am busy healing clients and working on my own boundaries with that,
it's important, by the way.
Yeah. I feel exhilarated and excited about the work that I'm doing.
So to make this more like sustainable for you, right? Notice how you're taking a really deep breath when I say the word more sustainable for you, right? Because this is a big piece that's on your altar right now.
Yes.
Is that getting clients is not the issue. It's about honoring yourself that you can give from a full cup.
Yeah.
And so you've set up something that's really special and super new. And I wanted to open it up to the Bluebird, the Deja Blu community, is that you're doing mentorship.
Yeah.
And it's a 3-month container.
3 month. Yeah.
And it's the opportunity to recognize that there's power in giving, like what you do, just one-on-one giving and just supporting them with the healing experience. But there's more power in teaching someone else how to fish so that they don't go hungry.
Exactly.
Right? Because now when it's just one-on-one, that person's reliant on you.
Yeah.
So they have to wait for Nadia to be free, have the resources, book the session, feel better, wait for the next time.
Mm-hmm.
But this mentorship is actually an opportunity for people to learn how to treat themselves with the herbs based off of their own individual needs. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a container for herbalism. It also can be to just go deeper into Chinese medicine as a whole and the psychosomatic relationship that we have to our own body and our own healing.
See, now this, I can't put enough emphasis on the importance of filling up our awareness with things that educate us that will remain an asset for the rest of our life.
Yeah.
I think personally is the greatest investment one can ever make is in study of things that are going to continue to be the gift that keeps on giving.
Yes.
Right. So when you have this knowledge that you have devoted to over a decade of your life, now that's in you for the rest of your life. That's not going anywhere. The clothes on your back will change. The relationships will change. The money in your bank account will fluctuate. The homes that you live in will change. But the stuff that you have studied will stay in your asset of who you are and the value that you bring, every space that you enter into for the rest of your life. Now, the gift that you can give by being a teacher to give to others, the opportunity to work with you one-on-one, to go through a 3-month mentorship, to learn about their own individual needs. For example, they're having a challenge with their liver and they want to learn what are the best Chinese herbal medicines for the liver. How do I do it on a daily basis so that I can be 1% better every single day? How can I no longer rely on anyone outside of myself, but have the education to actually be the medicine man, woman, a healer of my own experience, and to actually then invest in something that stays with me for the rest of my life so that when somebody else is going through something similar, I can also be the gift that keeps on giving from what was my greatest challenge now becomes my gift. And so this is an amazing opportunity for you to be able to allow your wisdom and your teachings to live on even while you're asleep.
Yeah.
Now that, when the deep breath comes in with the boundaries of like making sure that you've got enough time to actually be able to like do you and be human and spend time with your dog and go on walks and go on hikes and do your yoga and all the things that you like to do, while also being able to be in service, while also being able to be a teacher and allowing the asset of your wisdom to live on.
Yeah. It feels like teacher is sort of the next iteration of my expression for my healing art. I feel like I have a lot to give and a lot of love and devotion to this practice in a way that has a lot of codes and transmissions for whoever wants to receive.
Yo, so much codes. It's like, hell, but actually one of the most important things ever. It's like learning how to heal your soul.
Yeah. And reconnecting and remembering our relationship to the plants and the allies that they are to us, because it's chaotic times in this world and our disconnect from nature is really real. And we as humans have been communing and healing with these plants for millennia. And it's so important that there's a remembrance and a reconnection that happens here, because just the insight that anyone can get over a cup of chamomile tea even, and can be really profound if you just take the time to sit and sip with it and, create a ritual with it. And then your nervous system calms down and you just go to bed with a little bit more ease. You don't feel the angst to scroll on your phone, and just the softest little hint of adding these plants into your life just starts to create so much more grace and so much more reconnection to the earth, and just a soft feeling of like purpose, that we are here and alive living this life, and we have these allies and these spirits all around us to remind us like of our birthright of being human. And I just really believe that our connection to plants is here to remind us of that.
This woman believes so deeply in it that her number plate on her car says plant magic. Every time I drive home now, because I'd never noticed it before. It was like one of those things that I was always just thinking it's just play magic. Like I was just like, that's a random number plate. Like, and then you had mentioned it's like play magic. And I was like, oh, duh. Now I can't stop seeing it. So every time I drive home and your car's in the driveway and it says plant magic, I'm like, oh, I love that. And she's like really living, breathing the embodiment of being a voice for the voiceless, to give the plants a voice, right?
Yeah.
Like they speak to those that can be quiet enough to truly listen. But for the most part, for the majority of us, don't really truly understand the importance and the pivotal role that the plant world has for the evolution of consciousness, whether it's from psychoactive plants, psychedelics, from psilocybin to ayahuasca to iboga and all of these major, like these master plant teachers. But then there's also like hundreds of thousands of other plants that have medicinal properties that do not speak unless there's somebody that has devoted their life to become a bridge, to be the voice for the plant world, so that we can meet the plants and have a much deeper reverence for nature at large, and have a lot deeper respect for this planet that we co-create with and inhabit on.
Yeah. I really believe it'll make a lot of just mental health. I believe that the mental health crisis that we're dealing with is a big disconnect with nature. And I think that just taking a daily step or practice of incorporating a little bit of a herbal tea or something into your life can just ease so much anxiety and chaos.
Well, I feel extremely blessed and supported by my angels to be able to live with you and to be able to weave with you and to continue to witness you grow and continue to witness everything that you have devoted yourself to just continue to start giving back to you and being able to receive as much as you give, which is a lot of receiving still to come because there's a lot of giving that's happening. And I'm going to continue to be a supporter of you being able to receive as much as it is that you give to everybody around you. There's just like, it's stunning to witness when somebody comes into the house and they're like, oh, my shoulder hurts. Instantly your ears prick up and you're like, okay. And always finding solutions and bringing your education, your wisdom, and not asking for anything in return, but more so it's just the way of life. It's not just something that you do, it's who you are. And it's such a blessing to be able to share you with this platform and this audience. And for all of those that are interested in Nadia's work or interested in potentially doing the mentorship, there will probably be a wait list. So be patient. However, we'll put the link in the show notes so you can check out her work and all of those that she does. And then also there's an additional piece that I really connect with her on, which is her humor. We didn't want to get like too serious and professional in the sense of there was like a recalibration around her Instagram name and her handle, and she was like, and I call her Bad Bitch, and she's like, should I just rename my Instagram handle Earthy Bad Bitch? And I was like, that's the most appropriate thing I've heard all year. Yes. And so her Instagram handle is at Earthy Bad Bitch, which is so appropriate. But in addition to that, there is little videos that if you are blessed enough to follow her and then for them to pop up on your feed, they are educational, where she's like, I just keep getting the one playing in my mind of the horny goat weed.
Oh yeah, totally. Right. Act like a horny goat weed.
Which is a plant.
Yeah.
And there's this like one video where she's like, today we're going to educate you about horny goat weed. And then it cuts really fast and she's like, ah, and like doing like in a position of a goat, making the sign of a goat. And then just cuts back to, and then she starts educating you around like what it is, the properties and how it supports with the body. And it's just like that shit I appreciate on a cellular level. Like you get it, and your humor's actually really funny to me. And it's like it takes a lot for me to really genuinely find someone to be like really funny, and it's like just natural. But I'm really grateful that is the depth that you go, the devotion and the extension of your study.
Yeah.
You also bring lightheartedness partnered with the education.
Yeah.
And it creates like a spike in my serotonin and my dopamine when I'm experiencing something that's also educating me. So I just wanted to publicly acknowledge that.
Yes, I appreciate it. My humor is the backbone of my life.
It's important. Otherwise shit can get real serious.
Yeah.
Because being human's a bit weird.
It's super weird.
We're like, what the heck is going on?
Honestly, just like go harvest some plants and like a weed or something and just smack yourself in the face with it a few times. Just see where it takes you.
Might bring you back down to earth in the present moment and to realize actually,
Yeah.
not all's awful.
Yeah. We'll get through this.
Yeah.
It's all part of a cycle.
Exactly. So Earthy Bad Bitch, aka Nadia Ramo, one of the most gifted, if not the most gifted healer that I know. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast and allowing me to fan your flames and to blow smoke up your ass. You know you love that.
I do.
I do. And I'm so honored to be able to open the door for my audience to be able to tune into your content and to get a laugh out of it, but also learning something, but also to be able to have the opportunity of working with you and being able to receive the wisdom that you've cultivated that is partnered with science, education, and intuitive wisdom, while also laced with humor, which is for me the creme de la creme. That is the nectar. So you are Earthy Bad Bitch on Instagram. So that's where people can be able to find you. Yeah. For the mentorship, the link is in the show notes so that you can be able to go find her over there. Don't hesitate to slide into her DMs. Let her know how you found her. And if there's anything, which is what close it out with the one final question. If there's any piece of wisdom, knowledge, understanding, or something that could bring value into people's lives that you want to leave it with, what would you say? Not to put you on the spot or anything, but I like to put you on the spot.
Yeah. Find your local herb shop. Every town has one. And just go there and meet the people that work there and ask about a single plant and just start your journey with understanding these allies that we have, with just getting a little educated and seeing where you have access to going into a shop and smelling and seeing something visually and picking it out. And from there, even there might have local plant walks in your neighborhood, and knowing who's in your local community as a plant is really powerful too. So that would be my advice.
I have a feeling that this podcast is definitely going to boost our inspiration and our excitement of the beauty that it is to be human too.
Yeah.
The beauty and the magic of walking through the forest and being educated around what it is that is native to the land in which you live on.
Yes.
Educating ourselves around the properties of the healing medicinal properties of the native plants, of which are on our regular walk or a hike when we go with the dogs, whether you live in the UK and you're in the forest, or you're up in Topanga in walking through the hiking trails here. There's always some magic, and the education is an opportunity to connect us deeper with an understanding of the beauty of what it means to be human on planet Earth and to be surrounded by all of these incredible medicinal plants. So Nadia Ramo, thank you so much for joining the Deja Blu podcast today. Such a gift to have you here.
Such a gift.
And to all of you beautiful humans, thank you so much for tuning in today's episode. If you resonated with this episode, then please go ahead and share it on your Instagram stories. Tag myself, Nadia, and share it with the friends that you think would really benefit from today's episode. And I'm so grateful for your sharings, because without you, we don't spread as far and wide. And so thank you so much for all of your energetic input and your contribution. And I hope that this conversation with Nadia has inspired and activated a deeper sense of the desire to want to educate yourself around what is around you and the magic of what it means to weave on this planet alongside the animal and the plant kingdom as a blessing of being alive. Until next week, thank you for tuning in to the Deja Blu podcast, and I'm sending you so much love.